Hi, this is David Bolton again, and this is part two of a rather informal video series that will nonetheless be, I think, instructive to all of those out there who are interested in astrology and more, perhaps. Now, in part one of this series, a series that I like to call Deconstructing and Reconstructing Astrology, we talked about really basic things that don't have anything to do with astrology or very little, it might seem. We talked about latitude and longitude, degrees north and south latitude, measuring from the equator. That's always 0 degrees. You're going 10 degrees north, etc., 10 degrees, 20, 30, etc. south. And we talked about going east and west from the Greenwich line. That would be around here. It's not appearing on my Google Earth there. There would be right around here, going west or east. The United States, all the places in the United States are in western longitude. Then we talked about the place of birth, and we're going to see how we can see that using two other great circles. Now, in part one, we talked about the great circle that is the equator. What is a great circle? It's a circle around the Earth, imaginary circle, of course. It really represents a plane that would cut a sphere into two equal halves, as does the equator, as you can see. We talked about small circles, like these circles of latitude here. If you divided the Earth, for example, here, you would have one really big part and one small part, like cutting an orange, but not through the center. They're small circles. In astrology, we deal mostly with great circles. Now, a great circle can be the equator, for example. It could also be any one of these meridian lines. Meridian lines go north to south, from North Pole to South Pole. And any one, if you cut the Earth here, for example, it would be two equal halves, so it's a great circle. You could use this meridian line, cut the Earth in half, and you once again have a great circle. Well, now we're going to talk about how to locate the place of birth using, as I said, two great circles. So first of all, I'm going to take away in Google Earth the View Grid option, leaving only the equator that I put in there. Google Earth won't show you this. You have to have the Omnicycles program, where you can then decide which lines you want to put into the Earth, or project onto the Earth, better said. Here's the equator, right? Now, I was born in Baltimore, Maryland. Baltimore, Maryland is a little more than 76 degrees western longitude. Oh, it's up around here, right? And almost 40 degrees north. That is 39 degrees, 17 minutes. So we're going to use two different lines that represent great circles to zoom in on Baltimore, so to speak. The first, and I have this prepared to show you, is a line we call the prime meridian. That is the prime meridian for a place, not the prime meridian of Greenwich. In normal terms, the prime meridian of Greenwich is, general usage for the entire Earth. You start longitude, the measuring of longitude, from there, and you count to the left, west, to the right, east, if you're looking at the globe, right? This is, for me personally, the prime meridian, or for anybody who's born at this longitude, which is the longitude line. Let's zoom in here. You can see the numbers at the bottom on Google Earth. You can see that this is 76.6 degrees west. West is shown by a minus sign. That's convention also, international convention. You could say 76.6 degrees west or minus 76.6 degrees. So in other words, this line, this meridian line, runs from the North Pole, you see it way up here, all the way through to the South Pole. It's a great circle, divides the Earth into two equal halves, and it runs right through my place of birth. But where is my place of birth? Well, of course, as I said, it's up here in Baltimore. Anybody born along this line would have the same longitude. They'd have the same meridian, what for them would be a prime meridian, you could say, right? Goes through the birthplace, if you're speaking more in astrological terms, and divides the Earth into two halves. You can see if we make the Earth, we take it all around, this line goes all around the Earth, dividing the Earth into two halves. But obviously, we're going to need another line to zoom in on Baltimore, we're going to need a line going this way. And for that reason, we're going to make another great circle. And this great circle is called the prime vertical. It's an east-west line that goes through the place of birth. So we have the meridian and the prime vertical. Now, the prime vertical is not a parallel of latitude. Let's turn on Google Grid View again here. All these lines were parallels of latitude. That is, they were small circles. They don't cut the Earth into two equal halves, as I said, as does the equator. They were all parallel to the equator, but they're not great circles. They're small circles because they don't cut the Earth in half. What we needed here, though, this is Baltimore in the center, was a great circle. So therefore, it can't just run parallel to the equator. It has to go down here. So the Earth is actually cut into two parts, two equal parts, as you can see. Now, I'm going to put Baltimore more or less in the center, and I'm going to zoom in. Let's get this Google Grid View going there. Okay. Simple is better here. We have the orange meridian line. I always draw it in orange. It really wouldn't matter, but it's an Omnicycles convention to use orange here. If you ask me why, I'll say just because I chose that color, no other reason. And a light green for the prime vertical. Once again, no particular reason for that, but I stick to that convention because then it's easier to compare different charts when you view them on Google Earth. So if we zoom in here, what are we going to see? Well, there's that dot that represents my place of birth. We're going to get closer and closer and closer and closer until we see, there it is, Mercy Hospital, Baltimore, Maryland, where I was born many a year ago. And we see that that's the intersection between the prime vertical and the meridian. That is my place of birth, right? And this is how we show it when we project the elements of a natal chart onto the world using Google Earth. In case you're wondering how to do that, you can do it with the Omnicycles program, Google Earth Pro even, you can get for free. Just Google it and you'll find it. You'll have to have a Google email account, I believe, to get it, but it is a free program. Omnicycles with Google Earth capability, that is free too. There's some options of the program, like the graphs that have nothing to do with Google Earth. They cost money. But Omnicycles does many things, and you use it for free for as long as you like. And all of these Google Earth options up to now are free in the Omnicycles program. At the end of this video, I'll show you how you can download the Omnicycles program. You can then generate files that can be converted into Google Earth format, so you can do this very same thing for your place of birth. Now, it won't be as exact. I made this more exact right down to the hospital where I was born because I like to have things exact. But in any case, Omnicycles will put these two lines going through your city of birth. So you won't have to do it by hand. You'll save a whole lot of time. That will be it for this video. We didn't do very much, but they're essential things. I'd like you to absorb this information. We have now covered in 2 videos 3 important great circles. The equator, which we'll be using later on in astrology, the meridian of the place of birth, and the prime vertical. In the next chapter, we're going to get into a couple of other great circles that are very important for astrology, and little by little we'll see how the chart is constructed and projected onto Google Earth. I wish you a fine day, and do stay tuned for part 3 of this series. Bye now.